What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Floyd Street's Finest, presented by Great Flood Brewing Company. I'm your host, Jeff Greer. Of course, Floyd Street's Finest is a proud member of and partner with the Field of 68 Media Network. You can find all of our work on YouTube by searching Field of 68. Make sure you subscribe to the channel there, or you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can find us all over Twitter and Instagram. If you have not already, it would be a huge, huge help to leave a rating and review on Floyd Street's Finest so that other Louisville fans, Louisville haters, Louisville curious folks can go find the podcast, or they just might want to make fun of me. Who knows? But your rating and review will help them find it. And of course, tell your friends. Very exciting episode today. And I realize that there's a lot going on with Louisville basketball, and we will talk about that. But I've got Russ Smith on the episode for this week to prepare you for his jersey retirement on January 22nd. Number 2 is going in the rafters for Louisville. He meets all of the requirements that the school has, and it has now been the requisite 5+ years since he last played for Louisville basketball, which is a big part of all of this. They like to have what they call like an emotional break period for 5 years before they consider retiring anyone's number. I know people have been tweeting at me on and off over the last 7-8 years since Russ moved on from college, asking when his jersey was going to be retired. And they had to meet that 5-year period. And as soon as that period passed, the discussion started, as Russ will tell you in our conversation. So an exciting day for him. Louisville taking on Notre Dame on Saturday. They play Boston College before that. So we shall see how those games go, but there will be a celebration of Russ Smith, aka Rusticulous, at the Yum Center on Saturday, the 22nd. And he, of course, is very excited about that. His whole family is. And all the people who were affiliated and associated with him are very excited to see his work in college honored by the university. Before we get any deeper into that conversation with Russ, I got to tell you 2 things. One is we will probably, I will definitely expand on my thoughts, and we'll talk with Jack Grossman about this. We may have a third guest on with us to discuss this, the state of Louisville basketball right now, which quite frankly is not good. And I think the writing is starting to be quite clearly on the wall that something is going to change at the end of the season. I don't know how that will play out. I wrote about it on my newsletter, which goes out Thursdays, and now I will be having a couple other editions throughout the week as well. Just go to jeffgreer.substack.com if you want to read that column about, it was actually post NC State, about Louisville's situation, and particularly Chris Mack's situation status in Louisville. And I will certainly be writing about it more, but basically that game felt not great and felt like at the least a sign that things had reached new lows, and at most felt like perhaps the beginning of the end of Chris Mack's time in Louisville. I don't delight in talking about something like that. I don't, it's a business. I get that. And I certainly don't take me saying that or writing it lightly, because I realize that these are people's lives and their livelihoods and their families. But at some point, Louisville basketball and its fan base expects something far more than what has been the last 2 seasons. I realize it's also there's some complicating factors. You got to feel for Mack in the sense that the 2020 season did not get a postseason, and as a result, the best team that he has had does not have something in the postseason, which, fairly or unfairly, is how we measure every college basketball coach and program. They did not have a chance to compete in the postseason, so we cannot fairly and accurately look at the full picture of that season. But I think we can say, look, last year was difficult. There's no question about that. COVID played a huge part in not just Louisville's season, but most teams' seasons. And missing the NCAA tournament is not great for Louisville. The bare minimum is to make the tournament, I think, at a program like Louisville, and to follow that up with a season that is going the way it is, obviously, is not good enough, and is something that I think Chris Mack has said, he said after the Pittsburgh loss, which, as a side note, it turned out, based on the KenPom rankings, was the worst loss in 20 years for Louisville basketball. The last one being the Western Carolina game in 2002, believe it or not. So I had to go back a long way to find a by rankings in the KenPom history, which only went back to that season, 2001, 2002. It was the worst loss that Louisville has suffered to Pittsburgh in that period. And Mac, after that, said, I take full responsibility. And it's clear that everybody within the program is looking for some answers and is trying to figure some things out, and it's not going very well. So that part, elephant in the room, consider it addressed. We'll see how things play out, but I think we'll have a much longer conversation about this next week, because I know fans, I'm certainly getting plenty of tweets and texts and emails about it. And I'm sure anyone else who covers the team or is around the program is also receiving similar stuff of people wondering what the next step is and how things get better for Louisville and when they get better for Louisville. The second thing that I would just say is, as I mentioned to Russ, it's kind of a fun thing for me to be selfishly. I mean, I covered him for one season, but have written about him since he moved on from Louisville. But selfishly, it is kind of a fun thing to have him get his jersey retired. He acknowledges all of the craziness that went on in the 2015, 16, 17, the infractions case, all of that stuff. He acknowledges that was kind of played a factor in maybe them making sure that they could retire his number in the first place. But regardless of that, to me, Russ Smith's legacy is Russ Smith's legacy. And that is just one of the most fun college basketball players to watch in recent history of this sport. And as someone who grew up in New England and grew up absolutely loving college basketball in every facet, from the smallest of small conferences in terms of clout and financial situation to the biggest names in the sport, I have followed it religiously for 30 years. I mean, since I was very small. And you always remember guys who are great college players, and doesn't necessarily have to be a guy who ends up being a 15-time NBA All-Star necessarily. Some are, some aren't. But you truly develop a deep sense of appreciation over the years for truly great college players. And Russ Smith would very much be in that conversation for me. There's been so many great memories of great players over the years. Of course, I'm biased being a Pitt alum, but I always put DeJuan Blair, Levance Fields, and Sam Young in that category, Carl Krauser. But I know there's UConn guys who would say Kemba Walker and Shabazz Napier and Khalid El-Amin and all those different players over the years. So every school has someone like that or multiple guys like that over the years. And the sport as a whole, it's a small group who reach the highest level of being a consensus All-American and a national champion, and Russ Smith is in that category. So to have covered him, to have written about him, and to see his jersey retired is something a little different. And I have to say, I'm really happy for him. I haven't gotten to know him quite a bit over the years. I get to know his family a little bit, especially his dad. I know it means so much to them, and I know how much hard work they put in and Russ put in to get to this point. So kudos to him. I'm thrilled to be talking to him about it. My all-time favorite athlete who I have covered, I tell him that in the interview, but my all-time favorite athlete I have covered as a beat writer. So that should tell you something. And I'm sorry if Donovan Mitchell's listening, or Anas Mahmoud, or any of the great college bound high school football players who I loved writing about in Florida are listening. If any of you are listening, I liked you guys too a lot. But kudos to Russ and happy for him. Before we get to that, though, I got to tell you about my friends over at Great Flood, and I'm still thinking about that smoky brown ale that they have. Absolutely delicious. If I could have 50, I would right now, although maybe not. My wife's too close to labor, guys. I can't be drinking 50 beers, but maybe one. Great Flood is going all out this season. During all televised Cardinal women's and men's basketball games, their drinks 10% cheaper for the entirety of the game. That's at least 2 hours, folks. Maybe you get an overtime. That's a couple extra drinks. That's nice. You take advantage of that. This pricing is available at both our Highlands Tap Room and Middletown Restaurant. We love hosting you and can't wait to root along with you as we cheer on our Cardinals. Thank you for your loyal support, and go Cards. As a side note, we are now expanding our options in the tap room for the first time in 7 years, offering wine by the glass or bottle, and our liquor and cocktail menu is coming soon. And for Sundays at either location, you can enjoy endless mimosas. You got to take advantage of that, folks. That's big time. And also, I want to tell you about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. They are crushing the game right now. I don't know how else to say. They're crushing the game. If you have not, I don't know what you're waiting for. Now is the time to sign up for Bet Rivers Sportsbook. They are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. What sets them apart is they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash. That's right. Yeah, just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash. That's big time. What sets them apart as well is that new Rush Pay instant approval. Withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, more reliable. With basketball season well underway, you really, guys, you're running out of time. We're about 2.5 months left until we get to the national championship game. This is the time to get in on the action at betrivers.com today, or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. And of course, you've got to be 21 years or older. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, that's that. Let's talk to Russ Smith about his jersey retirement, his bourbon company, his relationship with Rick Pitino, his dad, his mom, and Louisville basketball, all wrapped up into one pleasant conversation, as always, with the great Russ Smith having his jersey retired on Saturday, January 22nd at the Yum Center. The number 2 will go in the rafters, and no player for Louisville men's basketball for the duration of its existence after this will be allowed to wear the number 2, because that will go down as Russ Smith's jersey. Pretty cool honor for him. So here's my conversation with Russ. All right, we are joined by the legend himself, having his famous number 2 jersey retired. As of this recording, it's in 6 days when Louisville takes on Notre Dame on January 22nd. He is Russ Smith. Russ, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm hanging out, Jeff. I appreciate you for having me, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. I guess first and foremost, when you first retired, graduated, moved on, I remember writing a story about how stringent the qualifications are for having your jersey retired at Louisville. And it's what you would expect at a blue blood program with so much tradition. But you met all of that criteria. And the only thing that was keeping it from happening immediately after you graduated was they require a 5-year waiting period to let the emotions of the moment calm down. So here we are, 7 years or so, almost 8 years after your college career has ended, and the number 2 jersey is going up in the rafters. I know that you probably could do this for hours, but I guess what was the emotion that you felt? How would you describe your reaction to finding out that they were going to retire your number?
It was amazing, for real. I never played, games in school to get my number retired. I only played to, do my best job and help my team. But it was insane. And then, with everything that's going on with the university, I was also kind of nervous that, it wouldn't get done. Mm-hmm. And I was able to, work around some corners with the NCAA and then with Vince. And, we were able to get over that hump on top of the waiting period for 5 years. So when it was time to address the elephant in the room, so to speak, it was a much easier transition.
What did you like? What was your first? What were your first couple steps when you found out? Like, how? First of all, how did you find out? I assume Vince was the one who got in touch with you, but how did you find out? And then how did you share it with other people? Were you flipping out? Were you just smiling? What was your reaction like?
I like find out like it was getting retired or
Yeah.
well, it was Vince. Vince said he was going to do it, and this was like I guess like a year and a half previous of the announcement. But we talked about it for a while. So on like social media, everybody's pressing me, everybody's pressing Vince. We already had established that it was done. It was done. It was a done deal. But we were just trying to figure out the actual like date
Mhm.
and how we were going to go about it because then I'm playing professionally. I'm overseas. I'm in China, I'm in Puerto Rico, Turkey, wherever I'm at. And then it was COVID.
Mhm.
COVID. It was no minimal fans at best, and it was just a weird time. So to organize it or wait, for the perfect time was very important and vital. And then once the switch happened with the ads with Vince and Josh, I mean Josh just picked up right where Vince left off. He's been great and very communicative. We talk, we text. Just very excited about the environment so far. That's been helping me.
Did you like? I'm always curious because I'm sure you remember reading stories or hearing the stories, and you lived it. But the great stories about your relationship with your dad and how he pushed you, and obviously your other coaches you had along the way who pushed you to get to being recruited by Louisville and to get to Louisville, and then this. Everyone knows the story, the famous Russ Smith story now of the work that had to go in once you got to Louisville to get to the point that you got to. Was there like, I'm just curious, like, was the, did it feel like the weight of all of that work, like that's a great recognition of the hard work paying off? I know the title meant a lot to you, getting All-American, all those things, but this had to feel like another one of those moments that this was all paying off.
Yeah, I didn't really understand it. I didn't really get it because I never thought this would happen. It kind of like blindsided me. I didn't know how big it really was until a lot of the basketball guys that are in the I guess the fraternity or the network was reaching out. So you got friends like um, everyone knows Griff Duncanstein. When he writes you, or when Jason Williams writes you, or when there's coaches from the NBA acknowledging your retirement and are more excited than you are. I mean, my former GM drafted me from the on the Pelicans. Dell Demp sent me a text. So like you don't really know how big it is until you got big guys in your industry writing you, and it's like, oh man, and they all understand the magnitude of this university, the prestige, the tradition, the culture. They're like, man, some of them are like, man, I never got my jersey retired, but getting it at Louisville, getting it at Louisville under Rick, like that ain't no rinky dink school, no rinky dink program. These guys are really they're students of the game, students of the craft, and they're wizards actually. So they just know, and for to hear it from those guys just made it a lot more lucid. And then all the work that I've done, the obstacles that I've overcame, and still going through, this couldn't have happened at a more perfect time.
I'll ask you two things off of that. One is everybody will want to know, what was your dad's reaction?
I mean, he think he's getting his jersey retired. uh, yeah, he think the ceremony for him. So yeah, him and my mom, they're both through the roof. My mom's actually a lot, she's happy for me, and just she knows what I like go through, emotionally and stuff, and what stresses me out. And my dad is just a proud father, and he's just very supportive, and I'm thankful for him.
Yeah, I mean, and I remember talking to you. I think it was the first time we ever did like a one-on-one interview when you were a senior, talking about the influence that your parents have had on you in so many different ways. I know you're always appreciative of their support and always have been. Uh, in the same line, you mentioned Daryl Griffith. There's this long list of Louisville legends. You're a guy who has always been appreciative of both from where you grew up in New York, of the legends who came before you, the guys who played and hustled before you, all over that famous basketball city, to the guys who played in and for Louisville. For you, with the respect that you've always had for those guys, to be included in that conversation, I imagine that probably felt pretty cool for you to be in that conversation.
Oh yeah, hands down. Because I grew up on a lot of principles and fundamentals, respect, loyalty, respecting your elders, all of that good stuff. Um, and guys who set the tone, before you, you do your homework on them. So just like somebody like Griff, or looking in the rafters, you see Purge, you see West, and then you look up what they did, and Charlie, you look up everything they did, and you're like, man, like that's the standard, like
Mm-hmm.
that's the bar that you should be, shooting for. So I just I really just can't, you know, I couldn't believe that when it was all said and done, that's where I was at. And coming from New York, where I grew up in, playing against the likes of Kimber, looking up to the likes of Marbury, and then knowing the history in New York, the Felipe Lopez's and the Jamal Mashburns.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you gotta, the guys that did it before you, you gotta respect it. And I've always been a student of the game. I've always respected the integrity of the game, and um, I never used. And it's unfortunate to say, I never looked at basketball as a business, because I've always respected the integrity of the sport, and that's how I played it.
Mm-hmm.
And I played it in college at U of L to the point where I only wanted to benefit the outcome, of the game, my teammates, and how we can all be successful together from a basketball standpoint. And with those like morals, I was able to, at the end of the day, be be honored in a way that is more valuable than money or any other um, accolade or whatever that somebody else can give me. Like
Mm-hmm.
with or without my jersey being retired, I felt like what I've done in my basketball career, um, from a basketball standpoint, will always be respected. But for the university to acknowledge that, and to have the benchmarks, the check marks to support what I've done, is just like another official stamp of approval.
Mm-hmm.
So that is almost like getting something notarized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've gone and found someone to get that thing officially stamped. There you go. I like
Yeah.
that. That's a good comparison. Um, have you? I can only assume that you have heard from Rick in some way, shape, or form. What have you guys been able to? How have you guys been able to catch up about this?
I mean, he's like another, like, father figure in my life, as far as like he's the advice he's giving me off the court, helping me outside of basketball. You can't really put a price on it. So when we're texting, You know, we're laughing with each other, talking about memories, new things, and he's just so excited for me and so happy for me, because you know it's a testament to his coaching abilities and his player development abilities. I could have came in and left the same player that I came in. You
Mhm.
know, or I couldn't have played, or he could have kept me on the bench. He could have over recruited. He could have got seniors, grad transfers, any way you want to slice it. He could have done it. But I'm very grateful for his patience with me, and I'm very grateful for a lot of the for the staff he had. There were guys he put on staff that really helped me. His name might not be too popular, but Dre, when he put Andre on staff, and we spent a lot of time together, I learned so much from him, like just the film. I learned
Mhm.
so much from Steve Masiello. I learned so much from Ralph Willard, and the guys he had around him was amazing. So as a coach and a mentor, I'm very grateful for him.
I will say, I think some of my favorite stories about your time at Louisville have a lot to do with your relationship with Rick Pitino, and obviously the success that your team had with you would, I mean, maybe it would have gotten close, but you put them over the top. And as you say, you know, he played a key role in your development as well. But in order for you to fulfill that potential that you had, I think you guys had to have a good relationship, and one where he kind of let you rock a little bit.
Yeah,
And Russ, I cannot tell you how many times over the last couple of weeks since this thing is really starting to pick up and we're getting ready for the 22nd that people almost exclusively talk about their favorite memories of Rick and Russ, from the time he's screaming at you and you just said, "Coach, you need a hug," and you hugged him, to some of the times you've told me about how at one point you just kind of got curious about how you might build a relationship with him and started stopping into his office more frequently.
yeah.
That relationship will always go down, I think, as a major part of your story and of his story at Louisville. Um, that's got to feel kind of like it's part of all of this, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. That's you know that was the key right there. That was I guess the key component in all of that. We to I had you have to you know build some sort of relationship or trust factor with your coach. I mean, especially you're gonna be at a school for 4 years. You know, you're gonna be with a team for 4 years. You know, your coach has to know you know where you stand or where you're coming from on things. And I think with me, he realized that you know this wasn't the way I played, and you know I wasn't being uh, reckless, so I wasn't being like a rebel. You know, that's just the way I played. It wasn't it was as simple as that. Like that was the
Mhm.
way I played, and I just needed some direction. And then the way I was as a person, like I was a free spirited person. I mean, my first year and a half, you know, 2 years, you know, basketball was cool, but I like being a student. Like I like hanging out with the sororities or the frats, and I like going to campus activities.
Mhm.
And I know, you know, I was very active. So, and then I would come into practice and I would just be me, going into his office in Cookie Monster pajamas for film, or we would stay at the Ritz Carlton in the Big East and we'd have film. Everybody has their gear on. I come down in the robe. You know, I've never been to the Ritz Carlton. They got the robes in there, so I'm gonna use them.
Those are nice. Those are nice robes.
Those are nice robes. Those are very nice. So like I would do these things, and I think in the beginning it was like, is this guy a clown? Is he a comedian? Like, what is he? I'm trying to figure him out. But I'm just sincerely just being me, and I'm just living, you know, just living, walking the paths of life that gets laid out brick by brick. And I think also then when I had to play, guys got hurt, and I had to play. Um, it was I think that's when he really started going, all right, let me see what this kid could do. He's been working his ass off the last, you know, the past summer in practice. I have to play this guy, so I'm going to coach him. And he coached the hell out of me. And it's like, to go from that kind of like person who might be, eccentric, a little not wired properly, I guess, to going, I'm going to coach this kid and, try and make a pro out of him. That's just a testament to his greatness. So I'm very fortunate. I was very fortunate to have a coach like that in my life.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the great stories in college basketball, and the number of people who have written about you, who have known you or played with you over the years, who have reached out to me over your jersey retirement has been kind of cool to see as well. So I know there's a lot of people out there who are celebrating, and we're all happy for you. And I think I don't want to bring up the bad news about your program right now, but things aren't going great in Louisville. And I think it's a dash of happiness for people to celebrate this coming weekend when you're going to be in town. Well, Russ, I two more questions for you. One is, I believe this is correct. You're with Fort Wayne right now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they gave you the day off to come down and celebrate. What has that experience been like for you? And, how do you feel like you're doing up there?
Oh man, they've been all great. And I'm actually the oldest player on the team.
Okay.
And it's like, where did the time go? But but yeah, everybody's been great. The GM Chris and Tim, they've been wonderful. Coach Tom, everybody's just been very supportive. And my career, my basketball career, all the guys in the organization and on the team, they're like rooting for me, and it's like, I played on a lot of D-League teams. I played with a lot of players, and sometimes, it could be a very selfish place. And thus far, my time in Fort Wayne, especially after the first game I had, maybe 5-6 years ago, it would have been different. I would have been a little more selfish, hunting more, all for me. But now it's being the oldest guy on the team. You kind of got to set an example a little bit, and you got to be that. You got to be that example or that role model for some of the younger guys. So whether it's being there early, always in treatment, words of encouragement, smiles, and just off the court ventures. So like now I'm at a point where, I talk to a lot of the younger guys about what I'm doing off the court to like support my family. And so I'm very thankful that it was even Fort Wayne that picked me up, because right now I'm home. I could have been RGV or Reno, and I wouldn't have been able to come home. So like I'm able to, take care of business, go to work, and then if I want, drive back that hour and a half and, be in my house. So I'm very thankful for that organization for picking me up.
Yeah, that's a nice perk. I didn't really think about that, but that makes it's a lot closer than China, Russ. It's a lot closer.
It's my first time to the States in 4 years playing.
That's crazy.
Like people are in the huddle speaking English. Like we're communicating. This is way easier. It's way easier than talking Chinese to my teammates. So like I'm on the court, I'm like, yeah, go that way. Yeah. Simple. It was a clean game.
That's great. The last thing then is, what do you have built up around this ceremony coming up next weekend? I assume you said your family's going to be in town. What do you got planned for those 48 hours or so?
Oh man, so I want to thank Planet Fitness for sponsoring and presenting the VIP reception for after the game. We're doing a nice thing, a big nice thing for the season ticket holders and whoever else wants to come and support the Russ Smith Foundation. I think we're doing some bourbon stuff as well. My bourbon company is sponsoring the late night reception and gala.
Okay.
Proceeds go to the Russ Smith Foundation. As you know, we were on Good Morning America, so we're really active in the communities here in Kentucky and the state of New York. So yeah, so we have the the VIP reception. That's going to be in I think the President's Suite at the Yum Center. U of L's done a great job with that. But yeah, we're just, that is going to be a nice, interesting Saturday. Hopefully, the guys can, pull something out. Notre Dame's good. Mike Bray's always been great, and Notre Dame's always given us trouble. So I hope we can have a good game and potentially come out with a win, so this retirement ceremony can go swimmingly.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be a cherry on top for all of that. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned it. Shouts, as he's affectionately known here, shouts to Big Russ for the love he got on Good Morning America. That was super cool. And for all the people here who have talked to him over the years, I know that meant a lot to not just him, but all the people who know him in New York and work with him both there and here. So that was really cool. And Russ, you gotta let us know. Tell us the bourbon company real quick. What do we need to know about the bourbon company? Where can people find it?
Oh man, so the name of the company is Mr. and Mrs. And we have 4 labels. As of right now, we have 4 labels. We have Blue Label, 90 proof. We have the Green Label, 110 proof, and we have the Cash Strength, 125 proof Rare Label, and then we have the Black Label, 12 years, and the prices vary from $40, $60, $80, $200, and you can find it in any liquor barn in Kentucky, any party mart in Kentucky, and I think Cox's as well. So
nice.
It's been, hopefully, if you can find it, because I think it did sell out. So
there you go. I love that.
Yeah, so if you can find it, you gotta find it and make sure you try the product. I'm all for hoarding products, but if you hoard it, make sure you try it and let everyone else know how good it
is. That's great. Well, you'll appreciate this, Russ. I moved here in 2013, right around when we first met. And I at first I was like, I really tried to keep it in like the 80s with the different bourbon, low 90s proof that I would drink, because I just hadn't really had it before. And now I send my dad stuff in the 110s and stuff, and I'm like, it'll put hair on your chest, old man, and he's into it. So it grows on you. So I'm happy to hear that you've gotten into it. It's the perfect business for Rusticulous to get into. So
yeah. Speaking of the proof points, the 100 to 115 is my sweet spots. Like,
okay.
Yeah, that's my sweet spots. The 110 to the 115. Yeah.
I love it. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for some of your time. I know you're always a super busy guy. You're all over the place, always meeting with people and doing stuff. So I appreciate a few minutes of your time. I have told people this, Russ, I've worked in Florida. I've worked in Washington, D.C. and Pittsburgh. Here in Louisville, I was in Europe for 7 months writing, or 6 months writing, reporting. You're my all-time favorite athlete I have covered out of all the walks of life, because of just the great personality. You're a great guy. So congratulations on the much-deserved retirement. And we're looking forward to seeing you here in a couple of days.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your kind words too, always.